Okay, here we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Writers Chat. We're very happy to have you with us today. This is going to be a fun episode. We're going to be talking about the recent trip to Italy that some of us were able to go on. It was the Serious Writer Italy Tour, the second year in a row we've done this. And we just want to, tell you about some of the things that we experienced, some of the things we learned. So we have with us, let me introduce myself. I'm Johnnie Alexander. I'm here with Melissa Stroh, Brandy Bro, co-host, Norma Poore, who's also a co-host, but Norma got to go on the trip, so she's going to be talking about that. And Beth Gooch, who went on the trip, and we're very happy to have Beth with us today. Sally, and I'm going to murder her last name, Frisky, I'm not sure that's how you pronounce it. Sally, I'm sorry. She was with us last year, so she is in the chat, and we're glad to have her with us. And maybe she'll pop on too. We'll see. She's at work, I know, so she usually can't do that. But let me first of all introduce Beth, since if you're a longtime community member, you know the rest of us. Beth believes in the power of story and that strong narratives can change lives. From newspaper articles that inform and inspire readers to the parables of Jesus that wrap God's message in profound stories, words make a difference. Beth has spent most of her life working as a newspaper copy editor and digital producer. Her headline writing skills have garnered national awards, and she considers it a calling to help readers obtain information that can improve their lives. Apart from her journalistic endeavors, Beth has contributed numerous nonfiction pieces for anthologies, but her favorite kind of writing is fiction, particularly romantic suspense. She pens tension-packed stories with characters who learn to rely on God as they navigate life's difficulties. So I was very privileged to be doing the fiction teachings. It wasn't really teachings. It was more like coaching, and it was so fun. And then to read Beth's story after we got back, just within the last few days, and to read her opening pages. And she's such a good writer. So I'm just really excited for her to have an opportunity to finish this publishing journey. And I know she has an agent, and we have the same agent, and looking for a home for her book. So Beth, why don't we start out with you? Just talk to us a little bit about why you decided to go on the trip, what appealed to you about it, and then, what was at least one or two things that really stood out as far as takeaway from the retreat itself, and then we'll talk about the tours and the fun stuff in a little bit.
Hey, first, thanks for letting me be here today. And I'm going to start off sort of by giving a plug. I'm director of the Mid-South Mid-South Christian Writers Conference, which is held in the Memphis area every March. Johnnie is also very involved with that. And this year, Bethany Jett was one of our speakers. But that conference is something that's dear to my heart, but it's a lot of work, and most of us who are on the board don't ever get to attend any of the classes. So every year I try to go to one conference where I can just really soak it in and be part of the conference and not have to do anything. And this year I just thought this Italy writers retreat sounded perfect. It was different from anything I'd ever done, and it was a chance to focus on my writing in a very relaxed atmosphere where I didn't have to worry about whether people's microphones worked or whether someone had a food allergy or anything like that. I could just sort of focus on my writing and getting and learning. So that's how I came to come to it. And I will say that this retreat is very good for someone who's wanting to just focus on their writing in an intimate setting. It's not, 600 people in a giant hotel room. It's just, small, very small group. Sometimes it was just Johnnie and me, in fact, or there were fewer fiction people at this this time. So the fiction folks kind of went off by ourselves, and there weren't very many of us, which was kind of fun because we could talk in a small group. And I felt like it really helped me. And also just, just I learned a lot, but I also it felt like it was a time where I could just kind of focus on my writing.
All right. Yeah, that it was a smaller group this year than last year. Last year we even had more families, and we didn't have that this year. And there were advantages to that. So what we would do would meet as a whole group with Kyle Young, who's literary agent and one of the co-owners of Serious Writer, along with Bethany, and he would talk about marketing and answer questions. And so it's just a conversation almost. He's talking and providing information, but you just have that opportunity just to make it personal to what you're doing. And then we would break up into fiction, nonfiction, and then there were children's too. So sometimes they would go back and forth. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to dig into individual stories. So I had taken like outlines of and like a handout of things I had taught before because I wasn't really sure, what we're going to do, but I wanted to gear it to the people that were there and what they needed and what they wanted. And so it was just a wonderful chance to listen to what other people are doing and the stories that are in their heart, even though they're fiction, they're still just very personal, and be able to talk about it. And we did some brainstorming with Beth's, and it was just a lot of fun. So it becomes very personal that way and very geared towards the individual, which is again just it's great fun for me. I loved it. So Norma, you did more nonfiction. So tell us a little bit about why. Oh, and I will say for me too, this was such a blessing because of course I knew Beth. Beth and I have been on the same with Mid-South Christian Writers for years. But it was fun to see her in Italy. And then Norma and I met, we've been doing Writers Chat together forever, but it was the first time we had met in person and got to meet her and her very sweet husband, Dave. So, David, it was just so fun to see them there and spend time with them too. So Norma, tell us about why you decided to come and what was something that you really gained from it.
Well, I first of all just want to say I can't even talk today. Let's try this again. It was so much fun. I'm just sad that we had to go all the way to Italy to meet in person, but it was totally worth it. Totally worth it. Last year, I know was the first time, and I heard you all that went talk about it last year, and it was just sounded so wonderful. And my husband and I had missed due to illness or family situations. We've been married 42 years and we missed our 40th and our 41st. We didn't get to quite celebrate. So we decided this would be our anniversary celebration. It was a great choice to make. I loved, and so that's why we decided to go. And at one point, my husband tried to back out because he's very introverted. And I said, no, I can't. I'm not taking a trip like this without you. And so he acquiesced and came along and actually thoroughly enjoyed it. When we first got there, he was under the weather for a couple days, but I would talk about, well, when we come next year, he goes, well, you can bring somebody else next year. And then on the flight home, he said, next year, we're definitely booking at least business class, if not first class.
Oh.
So there you go. Because we were cramped like this on the back end of the plane for 10 hours. It was not fun. So anyway, y'all, that trip changed his mind. And one of my favorite parts about it is what Beth already alluded to, the smallness. In the nonfiction part, there was typically 4 or 5 because there was a couple that did nonfiction and fiction. So they kind of swapped back and forth between Kyle and Johnnie. But it was nice to sit there and just kind of pick Kyle's brain and say, well, here's my problem. And I told him this. I said, my biggest thing is I learn all about marketing and I go home and it's almost like I have a panic attack and I freeze and I don't know what to do. So what Kyle did to help that was he gave us all homework to do on our free day to practice doing stories for for Instagram or Facebook, and to do a couple of reels to post later and things like that. And we did. We walked around, we were in front of the tomb of the gentleman, and I cannot remember his name, that wrote Pinocchio. And so we all had something to say from a different perspective. Katherine is such a great encourager. She encouraged her audience of writers that, like this man, their stories could be remembered centuries later. Patricia, who was here with us, I don't know if she still is, she talked about it from a recovery standpoint. And I talked about it from overcoming fear and doing what God has has gifted you to do. And who knows what he'll do with it. Your words could live on for a long time too. And so it was fun to be able to do that. And that was, I also very much loved the schedule. We would have a day of training, then we'd have a day of touring, and then a day of training. And it kind of went on like that. Sometimes on the days of training, we would go to another city close by to eat at a restaurant or something like that. But that I enjoyed, because as you get older, it's harder just to go, 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 and not feel like you're going to die before you get to the end of the week. So I really appreciated that, and I'll share more as we go along.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was the schedule is really fun. So, you learn a lot the first year. And so the second year, you implement those things that you learn. And so it wasn't quite as jam-packed on the days that we had the tour days as it had been the first year. And I think people did enjoy it more. The one day that was really fun, we went to I never can say it right. One of you guys help me. Montepulciano. And it's where they did film some of the scenes from Twilight. And it's it's an old medieval town, and we had a wine tasting there. So the first year there were like 4 or 5 courses in that wine tasting meal. This year I think we had 2 or 3. So I mean, because we just eat so much. And then we went to a sheep farm and had a cheese tasting and a presentation by Giuseppe, who was there. He owns the farm, and that was a lot of fun too. And then we got to sample all these different cheeses. So that was a great day. And then came home and ate pizza, or back to the villa and ate pizza. And that was really wonderful, because we all thought we were too full to eat pizza. And yet, as the pizza came out one by one by one, we were eating all of it. It was so good. So Katherine has joined us. Katherine, we're so glad. Let me introduce you real quick, and then we'll hear from you. So again, Katherine was with us. She's been with us before. She's going to be with us again, and we're really glad to have her. She's an author, speaker, educational consultant, and editor with a passion for delivering impactful messages that resonate with her audience. She's the host of the podcast Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Morality, and the co-host of the Word Weavers International live podcast, Open Mic. She's the author of God's Little Black Dress for Women, How to Put on the Full Armor of God Without Losing Your Femininity, Focus, 45 Devotionals to Keep Jesus in the Picture, and her first general market thriller released not too long ago, A Fifth of the Story. So we're very, very happy to have Katherine with us too. Katherine, we're just talking about first right now, the retreat itself, and why you decided to make this trip to Italy, and what you got out of the retreat sessions.
Yeah. Well, it was a no-brainer for me because Italy was on my bucket list. It was during the time of my husband's birthday, which you
Yes.
guys made epic.
We did.
And it was a writers conference put on by none other but serious writer, and Kyle Young and his people. And so it was a dream come true, to be honest with you. And it exceeded my expectations.
Hey.
The the accommodations were beautiful. It was peaceful.
Mhm.
It was the perfect place to write if that's what you had time. If any of you had time to write, I want to know. And if and then if just if you were going there for the cultural experience, we had so much of that. It was so well planned in terms of excursions, trips. It was things that we didn't have to think about in advance, and also the preparation in advance, like helping us to download the apps we needed for the trains. Like I feel like my husband and I felt really prepared
Oh, good.
for the trip in that aspect, and just how accommodating and patient Kyle was with any snafus we shall not talk about.
I'm not going to bring them up. You guys can do it. But yes, there was a
What
big
happens in
snafu.
Italy stays in Italy. I'm just saying.
And I will tell you, Kyle is an amazingly patient,
Yes, he said
good natured.
I'll never forget. He says, the more patient and chill I get, you're probably going to die. That was hilarious. That's just to show you how cool and calm he is. And I think that's an incredible, um, that's an incredible trait to have, especially as a
Mhm.
pastor, because
Yes,
he's a full-time pastor.
yes.
And his wife is such a lovely, sweet
Mhm.
person, just made everything that much better. She just was there in the wings, just supporting us and helping us. And in terms of the sessions, it was very free flowing and individualized, and I appreciated the transparency that I experienced from you and Kyle. It was priceless,
No, thank you.
and I got more nuggets and help and information uh, than I've gotten in years. In a whole different aspect. Like I still love conferences. I'll still go because I love networking and I love teaching and being with my author people. But this was another level. Like if you're looking for that personalized, individual, hands-on training and help, then this conference really is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay, just a couple comments. So one thing, Norma and I do get to see each other again really soon, but again, that has to do with us having been in Italy together because she was so kind to pack my olive oil, my tennis shoes, and a pair of my jeans in her carry-on or in her check bag that I did not have room for. And so I have to, on my way back to Florida, when I go, I'm going to be stopping and we're going to make arrangements somehow to meet or get together so that I can pick up those items. So that's
Wow.
really cool that we get to do that.
Yeah.
And your
Yeah.
bottle made it here safely,
Oh,
just so
yay. Thank you.
I was man, hands were laid on that bottle, on that suitcase. I prayed because
Yeah.
I had no way to replace it if something happened.
No, that's
God
all right.
heard my cry,
Yeah,
and
I would have just had to go back next year and buy another one. So,
he
but
kept your bottle safe.
olive
Yeah.
oil from Italy is so good. So it's like,
It was. I brought some back for other people.
mhm.
My husband and I were just super bad. We just stuffed our backpacks like it was ridiculous. We stuffed them. They weighed like 60 pounds
Oh
each,
my
but
gosh.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, let's talk about the excursions a little bit. So Beth brought her friend Terry, who was a delightful person, and that was another cool thing.
She
Like
was.
Katherine and Norma both brought their husbands, and a couple people brought a friend, to travel with, who then got to enjoy the excursions. And they just kind of hung around during our retreat times, but I don't think they minded. They'd go walking. The villa is out in the country, and it's like sits up on a hill, and there's hills behind it. So there's a walking and olive trees. And I mean, it's just an absolutely gorgeous setting and other buildings around there. So one of the days is set aside to go to Florence, which is about, I think, is about an hour and a half by train or something like that.
Yeah.
So Beth and Terry actually had a tour already set up. So that's another thing you can do is set up, your own thing. So I'm going to let her talk about that for a moment. And then other people went on that trip too. And went to Florence last year, which is beautiful, and I would have loved to have gone back again, but I decided I would stay at the villa. Someone had done that last year, and I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And I will tell you, it was one of the best decisions of my entire life because I was worn out. I mean, as many of you know, like I've been like deadline after deadline, and then had this move from Oklahoma to Florida just very, very quickly, and had been doing the traveling and driving and all these things, and I was exhausted, and I got to just I did my laundry that day, and I fed myself, and other than that I walked around a while and took some photos, and then I would just move from wherever the sun was, from one lounging area to another lounging area, because there are several seating areas around. They have those like long chairs by the pool, by, this other place where there's trees, and just move all around and just sort of, I don't know, prayed and thought and dozed, and it was like, I have nothing I have to do. Nobody needs me. Nobody's talking to me. There's nothing. And God, thank you. Thank you for this day, because it was an absolutely, so that's another thing you can do. You can go to Italy and just spend a day doing nothing, but to have that day of no pressure or nothing was absolutely wonderful until about evening. And then I got a little bit, then I started talking to myself. So it's like, okay, I'm ready for everybody to come back now. So I don't go totally crazy, but it was just a wonderful day. But Beth, tell us about going to Florence and about the tour that you and Terry had booked ahead of time.
Yes. First, I'll tell you about my friend Terry Healy. She and I have been buddies since we were about 12, and we're both married to these wonderful men who don't like to travel, but they're quite happy for us to go on these escapades. And so she went with me and was my roommate on the trip. And for the day in Florence, I was pretty excited about that, and I really wanted to maximize that day and just pack in the most. And so I thought an organized tour would be the way to get the most out of that day. And so and again, Kyle helped us get to the train station and make sure we got on the right train. And because there's more than one train station in Florence, you want to make sure you go the right one. And we got up there and arrived a little bit early. And of course, you could just walk around Florence and it's beautiful. You don't have to go on tours. The city itself is lovely. But we were on a tour that took us to the two different museums, and I won't say the names right, but first we went to the big museum where the statue of David is. That's actually a smaller museum, but we went to the museum where the statue of David is. And then we went out there's a covered bridge there. And of course, our tour guide was an art history. She was Italian, but she spoke English very well. And they'll put you with a group of other people who speak your language. So we were with an English speaking group, and she knew the history of everything about the statues and everything. So we go to that museum. Then we went over the bridge, the big covered bridge there that I also can't say the name of, but we went to that, and we walked across that, and then we had a little lunch break, and Terry and I had lunch there on the other side of the bridge, and then we came back and we looked at more statues and things. And then we went to the other museum where all the Leonardo da Vinci paintings are. And so you could do all that on your own, but they buy your tickets for you. And because you're in a group, you get this special thing where you don't have to stand in line. They just rush you through. And this guide who's been there a million times knows where all the best stuff is and helps you find it quickly and tells you the history of it. So I felt like it was a good day, a good way to maximize our time there, and we really saw a lot. So I enjoyed doing that. And I just Googled Florence tours and found one that went to the places I wanted to go and booked it online. So It was pretty easy.
Yeah, and it was about $150. Is that right?
Um,
Like that?
it actually, let me think. Yeah, it was about $150. But that includes the admission price to the museums. So that was, I'm not sure how much that would have been, but it was definitely worth it.
Yeah. So if you know anything about the history of Florence, of Italy, it's the Medici family, and that's where they were, and the banking, and I mean they were just instrumental in setting up a lot of that kind of thing. Like our banking kind of comes from them, and then of course there's the stories about Catherine de Medici, is how you say her name, and she was sort of scandalous. May have been instrumental in killing some people, but so they had become this very, very powerful family. So that whole history is quite interesting. And then these museums are like their palaces. I mean, it's where they used to live, and they did inspire all this art, and they um were patrons of art and literature, and they had this huge library and university. So a lot of just all of that comes from this one family, and it was based in Florence. So it is a place you do want to visit when you're there, if at all possible. And just even if you do just walk around, there's just so much to see. Justin and the boys and I did that last year, and it was really fun. We had a really good time. So, Catherine, what was one of your favorite places that we visited while you were there?
Yeah, so before we got to the conference, my husband and I, we flew into Rome and then we took a bullet train to Naples. And the pizza there was fantastic. Total foodie, so that was amazing. Pizza everywhere in Italy was amazing, but Naples especially because it originated there.
Mhm.
But I scheduled a tour for us to go to Pompeii, and
Mm,
that was an amazing highlight. I did it because Kyle had actually suggested it, and I don't regret it. In fact, I would go just to see Pompeii again
mm,
because you need more than one day. It is such an incredible, massive city. I uh, I had huge expectations, but it far exceeded my expectations. Could not believe the streets of history that you get to walk down and how well preserved everything is. It was just incredibly powerful to know, like, oh my gosh, we are walking right into history. There were fast food restaurants there. I mean, they had indoor pools. They had bathhouses for men and women. They had incredible palatial homes. Some of them. Unfortunately, there was also slavery there, and prisoners and child labor. There was all of that. But an incredible step into history, and I just realized we're just not as smart as we think we are because they were really advanced. I mean, they had massive 100 feet sculptures that you could see from all over, from everywhere in the city. They had coliseums. Some places had some way of indoor plumbing. It just blew my mind how advanced that civilization was, even their art. And even we think we're fancy when we walk our dogs. They had fancy dogs and they had collars and leashes and everything,
mm.
and paintings depicting that. So Pompeii was excellent. I loved Florence as well. That was fantastic, especially if you're a movie buff and you get to see a lot of where Romeo and Juliet was filmed, the Twilight series was filmed. Um, but the other gem was Orvieto. I absolutely loved that.
Ew.
That was just one of my absolute favorites. I would definitely want to go back and visit Orvieto. I don't feel like I got to really do it justice. Even the tram to get up the mountain was super fun. That was an adventure in and of itself. And just a little known fact, a lot of the towns and places in Italy are centered around a church. So the churches in themselves are museums, and the artwork is and the sculptures are just absolutely incredible. And it's also a journey into history to see how they lived.
Yeah, Orvieto was one of my favorites too, and I would love to go back and just spend a couple days there. Our time was really limited. but Norma, her husband, Katherine, her husband, and I went on the underground caverns tour and saw where they were making olive oil with these big stone presses, like what, in the Etruscan age, which goes back, I don't even remember how long. I mean, it was just amazing. It was
Yeah.
just an amazing trip.
And then knowing what pigeonhole means,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Right? Right?
You say, you hear the term pigeonhole and you're like, what does that really mean? Well, we got to see pigeonholes. We got to see that they actually raised pigeons to eat, and they became quite wealthy by selling them. And that was incredible to me, how they created these pigeonholes in the cave walls, and then they had just a window open, knowing that the pigeons would come back to their eggs. They didn't have to feed them, they fed themselves. They made like 100% profit.
Hmm.
Right.
And sold them to other people and ate them themselves, and also sold the waste product from the pigeons for
Of
fertilizer,
course.
right? Or yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it was just like, if you're wealthy enough to have this, to live above the cave where you could have your pigeonholes, you were golden. Yeah,
Yeah.
make all kinds of money. So that again is a very old medieval town, and it was, and that church was. I mean, I have seen some beautiful churches, but that church was one of the most beautiful churches I've ever seen. It was so lovely.
Mhm.
So Norma, what was one of your favorite places?
Oh my goodness, there were so many. One of the things, a couple of us had talked about going into Pisa to see the Leaning Tower. And Kyle was like, well, people have done that. It's like the best way to go is from Florence because it's closer to Florence than the little town we were in of Cusey. And so a group of us decided to do that. And we're like, well, where is it? Where is it? And we see this wall and it's got these arches in it. And we walked through the arches and there was the Leaning Tower. And all 7 of us had the same reaction, which was, it was just, I mean, we didn't plan it that way, but we all had the same reaction. And if you guys don't mind me bragging a little bit, I'm going to share a couple of
Oh, good,
pictures.
good.
Here's one. Hang on, let me get rid of. Hang on.
Oh, we're gonna see your conversation.
Yeah, I get rid of this. All right, hang on.
Just X,
Anyway,
do your X.
oh, there it is. Okay, my people window was in the way. Now I just lost it again. Here we go. Okay, sorry, you guys. This was at one of the wine tastings.
Mm-hmm.
And here's our wonderful group. There's Beth and Katherine and me and everybody there. And that was our gnocchi we made one night. And I made it after we got, hang on, I'm going the wrong way. That was
Yeah.
the night we cooked. This is Portia and Angie. Angie was the great photographer that was there, and Portia's one of the writers that was there. Oh, hang on, you guys. Let me back up. I'm trying to find. Here it is. My
Oh,
husband, John, he was holding up the Leaning Tower.
I love that.
My kids were so proud of me that I was able to get the angle of that picture just right, because they often say because I'm a boomer I can't do very much, but I proved them wrong. So there you go. There is us eating our gnocchi that we made that night. That was so much fun to make. Let's see. I don't know. I think that was on the plane. That was awful on the plane. That was for utensils coming home, wooden utensils. But anyway, like everyone else, Florence was fun. I already mentioned we went to the grave where the author of Pinocchio lays, but we walked all through this huge church cemetery, and it had very interesting headstones and different things on the headstones. Like as we were leaving, there was one, I took a picture of it. I haven't uploaded it yet, but it looked like an angry sloth at the top. I think it was supposed to be a brave looking kind of lion, I think, but it really did look like an angry sloth. It was really kind of scary. But just so many neat things. And then, like I said, I think my favorite was the Leaning Tower, even though there was a whole lot of hurrying and running for buses and trains and all of that kind of stuff. I loved Orvieto too. And I felt like we just didn't have enough time. And a part of me regretted not getting up at the crack of dawn and being there early. But I knew I had to get up before the crack of dawn the next day to head home. So when I go back, I definitely want to go back. The church that Katherine mentioned that was there was amazing. You walk through and right away there are these, I don't know, 20, 30-foot statues of all 12 of the apostles. Paul was one of them, not Judas. And we went into this room that was a dome, and it was made me kind of think of the Sistine Chapel. The ceiling is painted and the walls, and we're looking and we're all our head up and we're like, oh, my neck's getting tired. And we'd come down, but we just couldn't help ourselves. Our eyes would just automatically go back up. And two of my favorite pictures in there that were painted, they were almost side by side. There was, I don't know if it was a beam or something between them, but one was these big burly angels, how I imagine angels to be, these masculine, muscular angels, just kind of watching the mayhem on earth and people killing each other, and they're just standing there. The next picture over, these looks like the same angels have the long trumpet, the horn, and they're blowing it, and the dead are rising.
Hmm.
It was just, I've got goosebumps just remembering it. It was beautiful. And we also saw a statue of David where we were and learned that there were actually 4 statues of David made, because each time he realized he could do something better, so he would make a new sculpture, and he ended up doing 4 of them. So they're all originals. There's just 4 of them.
That's great. Yeah, it is just so much to see and do, and we had to be back in QC, which is the closest train station to the villa, by a certain time because we had supper reservations. So that was why we were sort of limited on our time in Orvieto. So because we had to get back and make sure we didn't miss that train. Um, a couple things that people have said, you noticed that, like Katherine said, she and her husband went early so they could do things, and that is very typical and actually a good thing to do. Is if you're going to make this trip, is to maybe go a day or two early, or you can do it on the back end too, and just stay. Like my sister and I last year, we stayed another week and went up to Lake Como, and it was just wonderful. And an older couple, I don't know how long they were there. They were there like 2 or 3 weeks after everybody had to go home, and they were still just traveling all around Europe. I mean, because it's, once you pay for the airfare and you're over there, you want to make the most of that time. Plus, we are going to suggest that, and this isn't really a spiel for people to come, but if we would love to have you all come, of course. But if you do want to make a trip like this, it is probably a good idea to come a day early because of flight issues. Like I traveled with Kyle was already over there, and I traveled with his wife Patty. She and I traveled. I drove up to their home. We drove to Detroit. We took the flight out from there, went to Amsterdam, flew into Amsterdam, and our flight to Florence was canceled. So, we really had to work with that. They finally, they kept wanting to send us to Rome, and I would say, no. She's sitting there, she's like, da 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 da. She goes, well, I can get you to Rome. No. Okay. So finally, this flight to Florence just kind of opened up, but we were very late. We missed the welcome dinner. By the time we got there, everybody else was in bed. So, I think almost everyone had issues. Sally, bless her heart, from last year, she had horrific issues getting to QC. I think she was a day late. I don't think anybody lost their luggage this year, which last year we had someone do that too. So, but there are these glitches, and, it's things happen. There was a problem with a train, I think, like damage to a track or something, which is why I didn't want to go to Rome. because I knew we'd get stuck there because of that. So if you come a day early, you get some rest, and and then you're there for the beginning of the retreat. Okay, so Catherine talked about pizza. Catherine and I both love pizza, and I think we probably ate more pizza than anyone else there. We would share pizzas, we just love them. Um, so that was one of my rapid question, just real quick. Beth, Catherine, then Norma, your favorite food?
Gelato.
No, you would say that. Beth loves ice cream and she loved gelato. Catherine?
The pizza,
She
hands down, and the gelato. I was just sharing that with my life group. I didn't tell them about the limoncello.
Oh,
I thought that was best not to. My pastor was there. But
now you brought it up, so you might as well tell everybody.
but the pizza, amazing. I have a real attitude. I don't think I can ever look at Papa John's the same.
I know. No.
It was just so the crust. There's something about that crust. I'm going to try to replicate it because I'm a foodie. I'm going to give it a try. But and then we were talking about the freshness of ingredients.
Yes.
I brought back that pasta. It's like a hand rolled pasta. Is it called peachy? Is that how you?
Yes. Peachy.
I brought that back and I cooked it for my church family, and they devoured it. It's just so different. It's, the wheat I think they use is very different. The
Yeah.
cheese, I brought back cheese and shared with people. So I love the cheese. The cheese was amazing, which was on the pizza, which I also love. And I also loved the limoncello and the gelato. Just absolutely amazing.
There you go.
Mhm.
So we were in Orvieto and we needed lunch really badly. So it was Norma and her husband, Catherine and her husband, and me. And we all decided to order limoncello. So they come in just like little glasses. And you guys know, I hardly even drink wine. I mean, I'm just not at all. But that was kind of good.
Mhm. Yeah.
I couldn't like shoot it down all at
No,
once.
we had to
I
sip it.
sipped
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
it was a little strong, but it was good. Norma, your favorite foods?
My favorite was the panna cotta that they made the night we made gnocchi. It was to die for.
I
In
love
fact, there
panna
was a couple of us that found out there was leftovers, and we waited till everybody went to bed that night, and we kind of snuck into the kitchen, and like we were trying to hunt down chocolate because they put a little swirl of chocolate over it, but they didn't leave the chocolate. But it was good without it.
Oh, it's good.
The
Panna cotta is
pizza
good.
was amazing, and what else was really good? Oh, we went to one of the restaurants we went to. They had some beef. So I thought, well, I'm going to try beef Italian style. And she said, do you want it bloody? And I was like, excuse me? She said, do you want it? That's their term for rare. They don't say rare, they say bloody. And I said, oh, yes, I'll take it bloody. And it was really more like a medium rare. It wasn't rare or like blood everywhere. They didn't do that. But it was really, really good. My other favorite was it the gelato that we had that night after dinner, and I had the lemone, and it was so good. It tasted like a very sweet, yummy, wonderful lemon, and it was. And then when we went to Florence, I bought one, and it wasn't as good as the first time. I was very disappointed. I wanted that. When you have in your mind, you want that taste, and it doesn't happen, and it's disappointing. The other thing that I absolutely, absolutely loved, I could have drank it right from the bottle, was their balsamic vinegar.
Oh,
It did not seem to have the bitterness that our balsamic vinegar has. It was just so good, and I managed to the last night that we ate out, I managed to convince them. Now, I just asked if they had any that they sold, and they said no. And then they came back and they said, well, we have some for you. And I found out after I got home and unwrapped it and everything, because everybody was saying, wow, that was a really good price. That was really, really cheap, because it was already opened.
Oh,
They could use about that much out of the top. But hey, I
that's
got my
funny.
Italian olive oil or balsamic vinegar. So that was fun. And Johnny, what you said about traveling is true, especially if it's been a long time since you've traveled abroad, like for my husband and I think it took us about 3 hours to get out of that stinking airport because we couldn't find anybody that talked English or understood it enough to point us in the right direction. But you know, God is good. We still got to see the Roman Colosseum. And when we arrived at the villa, everybody was talking about woes, traveling woes of different kinds. And I
Mhm.
just said, you know, I've learned that when we have such a struggle getting to where we're going, that means God's got great things in store.
That's
And I
right.
think all of you other three that are here would agree that was absolutely the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah,
It was wonderful, and the
absolutely.
food was so good.
Food was good. Okay, so talking about food and then something Norma said reminded me, Catherine, can you tell us about um Tony's experience with the hamburger?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're so funny. So just be prepared to be told no in a restaurant. It's very different from America. It's no having it your way. So he said he wanted a hamburger. So they said they asked him how did he want it. He goes, "Oh yeah, well done." They're like, "No, no, it's not gonna be. It's gonna be rare." He's like, "No, I don't want it rare." He goes, "Okay, medium well." They're like, "No." So he was like, "Okay." So they brought it to him, and it was edible. It wasn't like it was like horrible, but there was no bun. There was no lettuce and tomato. It was just a hunk of meat. So he made his own hamburger, and he got in trouble with for doing that. He got in big trouble with the staff because he got the bread from the table. He found some lettuce and tomato, and he made his own hamburger. So that was pretty funny. And just knowing the attitude about dining out there is very different, and I like that, where it's more relaxed. Don't be in a rush to get your food because they believe in spending time with family and friends and investing in that
Yeah.
rather than getting your food really fast. And I really love that. And I felt those were some of our best times bonding and talking. But I don't advise getting a hamburger in, in Italy. And if you see carpaccio, it means it's going to be raw. Because I dined someplace else in Naples and I ordered a fettuccine and it came with prawns, carpaccio. And I was like, oh, I prefer to have it cooked. They're like, no. I'm like, please? They're like, we'll see if the chef will do it for you. So he did do it, and it was lovely. But just a whole unique experience. They feel they know best, and they probably do.
Yeah.
And the whole attitude to dining is really a family friend affair. It's really wonderful.
That was probably my favorite too, was the amount of time. There was no rushing. Every meal took at least an hour and a half. Not every meal, like breakfast, we kind of hurried through. But when we went to dinner at night, or if we stopped out for lunch, it would still take at least an hour just to have a burger and some fries. There was a place that did have burgers and buns. Um,
Right.
that
Yeah.
when we were in Florence, we got that, and it was so good. But even that took an hour for just a hamburger and fries.
Mhm.
But it was wonderful because it makes you slow down instead of the hurry, hurry, hurry.
Yeah.
And the ladies at the villa just cooked amazing food for us. And the day that we did all the cheese tasting and the wine, and I brought some cheese home too.
Yep.
Um, we were all, oh man, I don't think we'll be able to eat any pizza. Like Johnny already said, we were bemoaning how full we were. And let me tell y'all, we put a hurting on that pizza. It's it's like it wasn't, oh, I'll just have a little bite thing. Oh no, we devoured several pizzas. Somehow we found a second stomach and we devoured because they were so good.
God.
And like Catherine alluded to, everything was so fresh. I have a dairy intolerance, and if I have too much dairy, and I have a gluten intolerance, if I have too much of one of those, my stomach rumbles. I get like an eczema spot somewhere on one of my hands, and we had so much pizza dough and bread and cheese, and not one time did I have any reaction to it. I was blown away. And it's because they don't use the preservatives and the fillers that we do here in the States. We just ate whatever we wanted. And I don't even think it, and y'all pitch in, I don't think there was one time, even though I was very full, it never felt
Mm-mm,
heavy.
mm-mm.
Like if you go to Olive Garden or Carrabba's, you walk away and you're full, but it's also heavy on your stomach. I never felt that. It was just, my mouth is salivating, my jaws are tingling.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
want to go back.
it was really, really fun. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour, so thank you, ladies, for joining us today and for sharing your experiences. And really, if I know Kyle is already planning on doing this again next year, it will be limited. We only have so much space in the villa. So, if you're thinking you're wanting to go, you do want to start saving and start planning and be on the lookout for those announcements. I also want to tell you all really, really quick that next week we are celebrating the Writers Chat birthday. And as you know, we really don't know when our birthday is, but we have decided that it's going to be next week. So it's going to be 8 years that we're celebrating. We know we have the years right. And so we ask that you join us for that. It will be very casual, just very open. We do want to hear from you. We will record it, what Writer's Chat has meant to you over the years and, your own little stories. And we have some happy birthday wishes from some of our past guests to read too. So we just invite you to join us for that. If you're watching the replay, we do invite you to join us any Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. Go around the globe to find your time zone. And you can check out our Writers Chat Facebook page where there are all kinds of videos, the Writers Chat Facebook group. You can always join us, also join us there. And on YouTube, under the Serious Writer channel, you can find our Writers Chat playlist. And we just have tons and tons of episodes covering all aspects of writing. So we invite everybody who wants to stay on for the after party. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next week. Bring your party hats for the birthday party. See ya. Bye-bye.